she's not saying hello at this point. Hello, there she goes. So yeah, welcome along guys to another one of our videos. As you can see, we are in a tiny house, which is not really all that tiny, but I've been watching this build over the last few months when it was being done down in Melbourne, and I tracked down the owner and builder of this place, Karl, and I've managed to track him down, and here he is here. So Karl, thanks very much for having the time to speak to us and inviting us up here, because this has been hauled from Melbourne up to an undisclosed location in regional Victoria. The location will be revealed in due course, because I believe this is going to be set up as a Airbnb style.
Yeah. So the undisclosed location is relatively close to the snow.
Yes.
Or where the snow will be.
Yes, it'll be near Mount something. So there you go. But we just wanted to, obviously this is not completely finished. Karl's up here putting the final touches to it. We've come up here tonight to give it a bit of an initial test run to make sure everything works, but he's putting the final touches to it. But we wanted to sort of sit down with Karl and just get an idea of, you know, what made him want to even start this whole project, because as you'll see, this is a big project. We're going to give you a little bit of a teaser tonight. We're not going to do the full tiny house tour until he's got it all finished, but this is a very unusual tiny house. It's a very big tiny house. In fact, it's the biggest one that I've seen or heard of being done in Australia at the moment on wheels, because this thing is on wheels, it is on a trailer. But we wanted to get an idea from Karl as to why he even wanted to do this. So as I ask everyone, Karl, well firstly, how did you first come to hear about tiny houses?
Well, as with everything, the internet, you know, you start liking things. I was always pretty interested in environmental sustainability and our environmental footprint and all that, and one thing leads to another. You
go down the rabbit hole and you go, oh, what's that? Yeah.
And wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I also have done quite a bit of travelling and stayed in my fair share of weird and wonderful places.
Excellent.
And my belief is that if you've got a home, it should be a home, not a house. Yeah. And if you're traveling, it should be an experience, not just a place to stay.
Absolutely.
So there's always more than one reason to go stay somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, has this been an idea that's been on the boil with you for a while, or is it?
Yeah, it's a few years in running. I started looking at buying a house. It would have been about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and one thing led to another, and I thought it was a better financial decision to build my not so tiny house.
Yeah. Well, as we were talking about, I mean, this whole idea of a mortgage, I mean, you're committing to something that you were saying, it's almost like servitude, you know, committing to this mortgage for 20, 25, 30 years sometimes.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think my viewpoint towards it is all good if that's the path that you want to follow, but there's not only one path, and I think that, you know, if you feel that that one's not quite right for you, then maybe look outside the box. Box, and, you know, look for a different path and one that's maybe more suited towards you. And for me, being set in for 25 years into a mortgage didn't really appeal to me, and also it meant that I'd have to stay in my particular job, and it set a lot of rules around my life, which I didn't want.
And that's the thing, and somehow, you know, like society's at this point where almost, you know, success is somehow measured by the size of your house, the suburb that you live in, what brand car you drive, and that's a measure of whether you've made it or not, or how, and therefore how happy you must be. But it's
I feel like that's changing though, to be honest, in this whole tiny house. So back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 50s, that was the case, and it's been a running theme. But as we've got through with population density, and also people are looking at not necessarily wealth creation but lifestyle that they live, then as lifestyle becomes more important, what's more important to you? Working in a full-time job which you don't really like, to pay a mortgage
on a place that you're not there,
you're not there much,
you can't enjoy because you're always paying for the bloody thing.
And for me, it's much more about, I prefer being around nature. It kind of gives me a little bit of inner peace.
Yeah.
And also it means I get to spend more time with the people I want to.
Yeah, that's it.
Doing the things I want.
Yeah. Now, your partner Larissa, what was the deal? Did you have to convince her of the merits of let's live in a tiny house, or was she on board right from the?
No, she wasn't on board, eh? No. She thought it was a bit. She thought she's quite a traditionalist with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So no, it started off very much as
This was a Karl project.
Okay. Larissa was like, I'm not a part of that, and as she's seen how it's progressed, there's a big difference when you see these things like on a camera or on a plan versus when you come in. The feeling of being in there, it's not what you think.
Absolutely. I remember Ashley, and we will organise a visit to see Ashley as well, but Ashley, who's here in Victoria, she's built a tiny house as well, about 8.5 metres long, and she and her partner have moved in. And I remember when she was painting, she rang Lisa, she said, "Oh my God, this place is huge!" You know, she said, "All my friends thought I was crazy," but when we got it to walk upstage, and when sort of you could get the sense of the scale, and my friends came in, they said, "Oh my God, this makes sense now. I can actually see how this is livable."
Every single person who's visited this has said, "Wow, it looks kind of big in the photos, but it actually feels a lot bigger when you're actually in here."
Yeah, and a lot of people have said, I mean, I was on ABC this morning, ABC Radio in the studio, and a lot of people are sort of commenting, some of the text messages that came through on the show this morning, but also just in general, whenever there's a story in the Herald Sun or on TV, and there's comments by Joe Public, oh, those things are only any good if you're a single or a couple, but something like this, as you guys will see when we do the full tiny house tour, but a tiny house in general, whether it's 7, 8, 9, 10 metres long, do you feel that a couple, or even a couple with a couple of young kids, could happily live in a space like this?
100%. Like, this is definitely big enough for a family. Like with kids, you have to, and again, I think that in a tiny house, what it means more so is that you just become more specific, and if you've got a family, then you specifically choose a tiny house that suits that need. If you've got more space, it means you can be more general about things. If you're in a smaller space, you're more specific about what you want in there, how you want it, what your needs are.
I remember an interview I saw with Jay Schaefer a couple of years ago, and he said, look, building a tiny house or designing a tiny house, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, when you see this, right? But he said it's kind of like getting a custom-made suit done. You go to Hong Kong, you get a tailor-made suit, you design it for your dimensions, your needs, your wants, your habits, your lifestyle. And so if you love to cook and you want like an enormous kitchen, go for it. If you've got if it's just a couple and you're not planning on having kids, you've got no intention of having kids, then your design would be totally different to someone who knows we've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and therefore we need to accommodate that. If you've got craft activities, or if you've got particular hobbies and you're going to need it, or where am I going to put all my books or all my craft stuff? So, but it does require, as I said this morning in the interview, it does require, as I'm sure you'd agree, you have to downsize and minimise and declutter and get rid of a lot of the stuff you've accumulated. But if you're very clever with your storage options, you can fit an enormous amount of things, and there's plenty of storage options in a tiny house.
Like, I have too much storage here for what I need. I don't need it all.
No, there's plenty. I mean, we've just arrived about an hour ago, you guys, and we're staying here tonight, but we've checked out some of the storage options, and there's an enormous amount of storage. I mean, Lisa and I were shocked when we took our caravan back to where we're renting, because we wanted to build, so we moved back to the traditional rental house, and we were pulling all the stuff out of the caravan. We thought, how did we fit all the stuff in the caravan? And that was a 1974 vintage caravan. So when you go to 2017, where a house is being custom built by the owner, all sorts of custom cubbies and drawers.
Yeah, that space there, that's if I want a washing machine. I don't really want one yet. So it's not just a empty box thing.
No, that's the thing. It's a matter of thinking outside the box, as you were saying. you know, storage doesn't always have to be in big chests of drawers or in a walk-in robe on racks. Why can't it be under the floor, part of the stairs, above a door, below you know, behind above a ledge or whatever it might be? So
exactly,
plenty of options there.
And for me, especially in designing a house like this, one of the first things you really need to ask yourself is, what is important to me? You kind of touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
And for me, what's important to me is not feeling cramped, having a good connection with nature, with the outdoors, having good indoor-outdoor flow, and also having areas where I'm not disturbed. That was one of my bigger concerns with living with someone else.
One just big open box, you wanted to have separate sort of designated spaces.
Yeah, so with my house I really designed it so that there's quite a few areas where you can have your alone time.
Yeah.
And not be disturbed.
Yeah. So with this one, how many people is it designed to sleep?
It's designed to sleep 2, so it's designed for a couple.
Yeah.
But it can sleep up to 5.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
5 comfortably.
Yeah. And so what was, and I know Lisa touched on it earlier, but what was was there one particular feature that you had as your design feature that was your must-have? Like, when I build this tiny house, I've got to have this particular feature. Was there one feature that you really did?
Probably the switch glass.
The switch glass?
Yeah, I just wanted a gangster switch glass window.
Oh, yeah. We're going to show you that in a couple of weeks, but the switch glass is very, very cool. It is an option. We'll look into, when we come back in a couple of weeks and talk to Karl, we'll discuss sort of how much something like that might cost, but
also these doors folding out on the deck, that was also a really
because we're actually inside the house right now. This is really a wall. We'll pan out, but there's a good section of this wall that just opens up, you guys. So it is an amazing feature of the house, and it's something that I think we're going to see more and more of in Australian, Aussie designed tiny houses, because we're not in Minnesota or Colorado or wherever it snows in the States. The climate here in Australia, even down here in Victoria, lends itself to being outdoors a lot.
Well, even with that, so for instance, if it is really, really cold and it is designed to, obviously, this is kind of designed to be around the snow for the winter, you know, you can close the doors up, it gets super cozy and warm inside, and you know, we've got outdoor heaters, all that sort of stuff, so for me, it's not about how cold it is outside, it's about whether or not you're cold. I don't like being cold, but I don't mind being in a cold environment. Yeah,
as long as you can get inside and warm the place up. And with a small place like this, when I say small, it's only, to give people an idea, how long is this place?
From the toe ball to the end, 11.2 meters.
Okay, and we were saying, you know, the deck of the trailer is about what, 10 and a half? The actual build, the deck area, about 10 and a half.
But it's 10 meters from wall to wall and 2.4.
2.4. Yeah, so, which is pretty much the max width you can go. I know with our trailers, we take our trailers standard width to 2.4 because it just gives people that 50 mil on either side for whatever their choice of
indicators,
needs,
yeah, all that sort of stuff. Like if anything juts out from the wall, you kind of need a little bit of play.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. So, all right, and so was this planned from the get-go to be your home, your house? Were you building it, planning for you and Larissa to live in this, or?
The plan was to be fluid, to be honest. So the plan, I suppose, was build it and just see where life takes me.
Yeah.
And that was, like, I could always sell it. It could always be along the lines of an Airbnb, which I'm going to be doing, or another option would be to buy a house, park this on the back, and rent out the front. So it was designed as you could have a full-time living, or an Airbnb, kind of, you know, holiday vacation rental.
Excellent. Now, I know this question a lot of people are going to be wondering, are you a builder?
No, I'm a Pilates instructor.
Oh, there you go. So even a Pilates instructor, no disrespect to Pilates instructor, but even a Pilates instructor, would you believe it, can build a tiny house. So there's hope for the rest of us. Did you, what have you felt? I know you're sort of what, 90, would you say 90, 95% finished? What would you describe the process as being like? Have you just hated the whole thing? Has there been times where you just wanted to say, just throw the whole thing in?
Oh yeah, there's definitely been those times. It's been a love-hate.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that's me with any challenge though. Whenever you do a challenge, it's really frustrating at the time, and you're like, oh, how am I going to do this? And especially in building a tiny house, if you don't know anyone, if you talk to a builder, they'll say one thing. If you talk to someone who does modular housing, they'll say another thing.
Yeah.
If you speak to someone who does caravans, they'll say something else.
Yeah.
But you've got to draw your best opinion off those and make a decision that's you're not qualified to make, but you know you do, and you know for any problem there's always a solution. So as long as I found that if every problem that comes along, I just think, okay, well, there's a solution, I just got to find that solution, then one always comes up.
That's right. Excellent. So was there any particular, what would you say the biggest thing you've learned out of this whole experience?
As in me personally,
whether it's
my
a personal
advice to
whether it's a personal growth thing, or whether it's a skill set that you've learned, or is there any one thing that you felt that you've just really picked up and learned through this whole process? Or
surround yourself with people who know.
Okay.
I haven't had that, and that has been one of my biggest challenges.
Okay.
And this is why your Tiny Houses Australia is so good, because by being able to talk to people who have done it before, you're like, oh, I ran into this, oh, I've got this problem, it's really frustrating, and you talk to someone else who's done it, there's this easy solution, but it's trying to find that easy solution that's the hard part. It's not actually solving the problem, it's finding the solution. So if you surround yourself with people who, you know, kind of had done it,
just like-minded people that have done it, that also want to do it, that are in the process of doing it as well. And that was why I started the whole, as I've said to many people many times, that was why I started the whole Tiny Houses Australia community in the first place, because I thought this makes sense, so much sense to me. Surely I'm not the only person for whom this makes sense. Surely there must be other people out there. I can't be this solo lunatic, you know.
And see, when I started designing this, there wasn't much. Like this was 3 years ago, and in the last few years, it's just it's become a thing now.
Yeah, I mean, 4 years ago when I started the Facebook page, there was one guy, hey Chris, or Dave, we still don't know what your name is, he's protecting his privacy, but Dave/Chris up in the Gold Coast, he was the only person that I could track down that was even building one. And he's been in his house now for about 2.5 years. And but apart from that, that was it. Now we know about, at last count, about just over 100 builds that we know of. But that's just the ones that have said, hey, I'm on Facebook, here's my Instagram, here's my blog, follow me. But there's more and more that we're finding all the time. Hundreds all over the country that are just being built under the radar. They're just doing it. They're not going public, hey, here's my Instagram. You know, they're just building it and getting on with it. They just want to do it, get on with their lives and reap the benefits, cash flow freedom, time freedom, and all the other benefits that come along with a tiny house.
That's, to be honest, one of the really interesting things, because, and this is a question that I found that in talking with people about this, the majority of people don't ask themselves this. And when you list out people's priorities as to what they find important in life, what's not often up the top?
No.
You know, it's family and, you know, maybe outdoors, or sport, or friends, or whatever it is. And yet when you then do a breakdown as to your time, as to where you spend your time versus what you want to spend your time on, like, it just seems defunct. Like, if you were to do that in a workplace scenario and you do a critical time analysis of how you spend your day versus what is the most important, beneficial way to spend your day on, you'd be fine, right? Because you wouldn't be spending your time on the things that are most important to you. Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense. And I remember one of the things that was a game changer for me, or changed my mindset, was one of these TED Talks that Dee Williams did online. It's up on YouTube, you guys. Dee Williams TED Talk, you'll find it. And in there, one of the things she asked was, you know, what recent item, what purchase, what thing would you like to hold in your arms as you die? And for everyone that's watching this, everyone that to, we all know that it wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't be a what. It would be a who.
Yeah.
And it's, for a lot of people, there's a shift happening. We were discussing earlier. There's a shift happening, and people are starting to realise more that life is not about money and toys and assets and things, but it's about relationships and time and experiences and sharing your life with those and having the time to do the things that you really want to do.
Well, on that same note, there's quite a few YouTube videos where it's about asking people what on their deathbed, what their regrets.
What did they wish they did?
Yeah, and it's never about I wish I was at work more.
Yeah. I wish I'd made more money. No.
Yeah.
I wish I did this and went on those adventures and had more fun and spent more time with my kids or whatever it might be.
Spend more time with people that you love and doing things that you love.
Yeah.
So why not decrease your and I think that, like, with the way that our society's set up, this is going to make me seem like an absolute hippie, but I'm not really. And it's really about, for me, just doing what you love, and being part of it, and leaving the world a little bit of a better place than you came in on.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, there's so many people. I've said this before, but people come to this. The people that have come to this realization, I'm going to do it. I want to build a tiny house. It's a path that they come to through many ways. It's many paths to this point. For some people, it might be coming back from a financial collapse. It might be a breakdown of a relationship or a marriage. For some people, it might just realize, you know what, I want to have a lesser impact on the planet. So for some people, it might be a financial decision. For some, it might be an environmental decision. I want to just be a more responsible citizen and have a lighter footprint on the planet. For others, it might be just hitting the reset button and saying, you know what, let's clear the deck, simplify my life. What am I doing? What do I want to be doing? So,
well, the biggest problems in the world as well, and again, getting to sound like a hippie, is depression, anxiety, the environmental constraints.
Yeah.
By changing our attitude, and then thinking what we have, and one of my changing points, to be honest, was I travelled around South America.
Yeah.
And one of the some of the happiest people I met were in Bolivia, and it was this family in the middle of nowhere. They had 2 kids. They had a goat, which they were just over the moon about.
Yeah.
And these kids were so healthy and so happy, and they had not much.
Yeah.
And what's, for me, I'd rather be happy and not have a lot than be miserable and have heaps.
Yeah, that's right. So that's our take on life. But what we'll do is we will put up a couple of photos. We will, snip. Lisa does the editing on these, so we'll do a bit of a teaser, little video walkthrough with of Karl's tiny house. Have you given it a name?
Living in Cloud 9.
Living in Cloud 9. So, good point. So if people want to follow along with the adventure, Living in Cloud 9 on Facebook and Instagram as well. So the cat's out of the bag. I've been teasing people about this enormous tiny house that we've been tracking down. So yeah, Living in Cloud 9. Give them a like, follow on Instagram, and that's the place to hang out if you want to get the details of when this is going to be available to come stay in.
Or on our page.
Or on our page. Yeah, on our website as well,
We'll
on our tiny house listings page on our website. Yeah,
nicely done. Thank you.
Go. So at least I make sure I get all the important stuff in the videos. So that's why we're a team. But no, this is a great location. It's a nice drive out from Melbourne. Took a little bit longer for us today than we expected, but that was apparently my fault.
You got waylaid by the markets down in Mansfield.
Yeah, waylaid by a couple of things. So anyway, but that's us. So what we'll do is, as I said, we're going to come back in 2 weeks when this is kind of all done, and we're going to do a proper tiny house tour. But in the meantime, this is me. This has been Karl, and cheers. Thank you very much for having the time to invite us up here.
Cheers, Darren. Enjoy your night.
Yeah, we will do. And
have a good sleep surrounded by the mooing cows and the rapids on the river.
Excellent. And we'll be checking all that. We promise we won't break anything. So,
if it breaks, it's just meant to be fixed.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so cheers guys, we will catch up with you guys soon. As I said, we will insert step a couple of sneak peeks of what's coming ahead with this tiny house tour, and we will catch you on the next video. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below or over here, wherever we decide to put it at the end of the video, and connect up with us every Friday night at 8 o'clock on Facebook Live for our Friday night drinks. Anything else, Lisa?
No, that's it.
That's probably about it. All right, cheers guys, we'll see you soon.
Thanks.